Well, good morning. Welcome back to Suburban Homesteader, Wyoming, Arizona. This is Sandy, and we are going to do a walk around in my Arizona garden. What is growing in Arizona? When back home in Wyoming, the other day it was minus 36 degrees. That's not even the wind chill. It was crazy for my family and friends and people up in the north part. But down here in Arizona, we are growing things right now. Now, we did have a couple weeks of cooler weather, where the highs were high 50s, lower 60s, but this week we're back into the 70s. And so that will really help my garden grow. But I thought you might find it interesting what is growing in Arizona right now. Now, we have a problem with feral cats. So you will see more weeds than I usually have. But what I have been finding this year, if I pull the weeds in that section, then the cats seem to think it's a litter box. So I have a little bit more weeds than I usually do. But it's not out of control or anything like that. But let's go see what is growing in my garden and maybe give you some ideas for when it warms up where you are, so you can start planting your gardens. We have been picking tangelos. Like, there's tangelos everywhere, and they are so delicious. So I'm setting fruit on some of my stuff. Like, these are spaghetti squashes. There's a couple of them. This one's over here is bigger. So they're coming along. I've been picking the Swiss chard amongst the rose bushes. This one is a butternut squash. It's flowering, but I don't have any fruit set on it yet. But it's right in the gravel, and then I put a mulch around it, and I have been feeding it and watering it. Now the sun's coming up, but it isn't high in the sky yet. But the tomato plants are doing well. The cabbages are setting. The onions are growing. And the stalks are just fabulous on these tomatoes. Now the sun isn't up all the way yet, so parts are in the shade still. But this is a beautiful tomato plant, and it is setting. Let's get in there. Setting tomatoes. And look at this cauliflower already. It's about probably 6 inches across right now. So now we're in the main garden, and I have picked lettuce and picked lettuce and picked lettuce, and it's about done. It's gonna start to flower. I'll get those last of those leaves off, and the parsley and the collards are just doing fabulous. Of course, I got some onions in here. The tomatoes are flowering, and I do got a pepper. I should pick that one today. We've picked Swiss chard so many times back here, but the tomatoes, though I covered them on those cool nights, it wasn't close to frosting. But I've picked collards, I put them in soups, I've just cooked them up, and the potatoes are doing well. Now all along in between things I have onions. These are those hollyhocks that are, hollyhocks are biennial, so I won't get flowers till next year, but they are my grandmother's. The zucchini is doing well, and it is flowering. Let me see if I have anything that's setting yet. No, just lots of flowers back there. But with the warm weather this week, we should have, oh, I take that back. There's one down there. So that's pretty cool. January, I'm getting zucchinis. Now this is what I'm talking about, that I have some weeds growing around like the cabbages and stuff. But every time I've pulled them so far, it makes it so the cats think that they can just poo in there. But all these peas have just sprung up. I didn't plant these. These are just seeds from last year that blew around. But I've been cutting the tips off and adding them to salads. I've also been harvesting the bok choy. And I've been just taking the outside leaves off and just letting it grow again. And you just eat this right out of the garden. I'd take that dirt off there though. But lots of peas growing. The cabbages are growing. Broccolis are growing. but I want to show you something. So for the most part, this gets very much sun. But right along this edge, it does not get very much sun. Which the onions are okay with, but look at this tiny cauliflower. That's about 1.5 inches across. But the garden is doing good, and I'm happy with it. With the warmer weather, it'll just really explode. All these red cabbages will really start to grow, and I do love a good red cabbage. But there's onions all over in between everything. These are my ginormous ponderosa lemons. Look, I'll put my hand there so you kind of have an idea of how big they are. And I have picked and picked and picked these. Look at this enormous one. But these are, you know, the easiest way to store your lemons is on the tree. But you can see that they're in different stages. Like that one's more green. It hasn't turned all the way yellow, and it hasn't got as big yet. But it has been a great tree. The last of my Meyer lemons. I just have 4 left on there. No, 5 left on there. This is Mom and Dad's Tangelo. It's not a very old tree, and it is packed with Tangelos. And they're just so delicious. The other thing is they have their big lemon tree that they've had for several years, and it is full of lemons too. So the interesting thing about lemons is, look, it's starting to make flowers. So it will flower and have all of the different stages of lemons all at one time. There's a flower that's open. The bananas are growing. I have 7 bundles, but I have to show you, it has been cooler, and that's tough on the banana. Like these ones are kind of protected, they're in the center. But this one that's out here, it was just plain too cold. And I tried to take a few off earlier, but they never got big. And I think, you know, when it was in the high 30s, it was just too much exposure. I have to say the roses have been just spectacular. But look at this. They got little bits of red in there, which is amazing. But this iceberg rose has just been prolific. And of course my popcorn bush, when you go like this and then smell your hands, hot buttered popcorn is what it smells like. Well, that was a quick look at the gardens, and they are growing and growing. We've had a great season so far. And if you haven't ever eaten just bok choy right out of the garden, it is delicious. And it's so fresh, and the taste is so sweet and wonderful. But that's one of the benefits of going right out into your garden and eating your food fresh from there. This is Sandy at Suburban Homesteader, Wyoming, Arizona. I hope you have a great day. Do something to help somebody else today. And I'll see you next time. Oh my gosh, it's so good.